Hi everyone, thank you for coming or for coming back. My name is Jillian, also known as Jillian Jigs, and today I'm going to show you how to make tiramisu completely from scratch. Now we are going to make our own custard, our own ladyfingers, and we are even going to make our own cheese. Now this is one of those recipes that is so pretty. It's not even personally my favorite to eat, but I like to make it because it is just so pretty to look at. So let's go ahead and get started. I like to do a little bit of the work the night before so that I have less to do the next day. And the only thing that you actually have to make the night before is our mascarpone cheese. So this is actually really easy to make and also a lot cheaper to make at home, so I do suggest that you try it. All we need is 2 ingredients. We will need our heavy cream and some lemon juice. Now what you're going to do is you're just going to put your cream on about medium-high heat, and you're going to let it come to a simmer. Once it is at a simmer, you're just going to go ahead and add your lemon juice and whisk. Keep it at a simmer, and you're going to leave it there for about 15 minutes, whisking every once in a while. So once this is nice and thick, you're going to go ahead and take it off the heat and put the whole pot into an ice bath to cool down for about 10 to 15 minutes. When you come back to it, it should look much thicker than it was when you took it off the heat, and you should be able to scrape it all up and put it into something to drain. Now this is a cheese, so traditionally you would drain it with cheesecloth. I usually don't have cheesecloth, so what I like to use is a coffee filter or a paper towel that I just line in a sieve, and I'll put that in there, and you're just gonna go ahead and cover this up and leave it in the fridge overnight so that all of its excess moisture will drain off. Now the second thing that I'm going to make the night before is the ladyfingers. Now even if you're not making tiramisu and you just want to make ladyfingers at home, you can go ahead and use this recipe. It is really fantastic and they are so much better than the ladyfingers that you would get in a store. So we are going to start with our eggs. So these are separated, and we are going to combine our egg yolks and our smaller quantity of sugar, because there is 2 quantities of sugar in this part of the recipe, and we're going to beat those with the beater on high speed. And also, you don't have to do this at the same time, but I did. You're going to whip up your egg whites on high speed. Now you just want your egg whites to whip until they start to froth. Then you're going to add in your larger quantity of sugar. You're going to beat your egg whites until they are at stiff peaks, which means that you can take your whisk out and there will be a nice peak that doesn't fall over, and you can even turn the whole bowl of egg whites upside down and nothing should fall out. With your egg yolks, you just want to whip it up until they are nice and light in color. And when you lift your whisks out of the bowl, you can leave a nice solid trail. Now once these are both ready, you're going to go ahead and fold your egg whites into your egg yolks. I like to do this in 2 stages, so I will do 1 half and then the other half, folding until they are almost completely combined. The last thing we're going to do is add in our flour. So we are going to sift this in so that we don't lose any of the air that we just incorporated into our egg yolks and our egg whites with all that whipping. So go ahead and sift in your flour and then fold it in once again until it is completely combined. Now we're going to put this on our tray. Now I used a piping bag because I wanted to be fancy. You can just spread it if you like. So normally if you are making ladyfingers, you obviously would not make them touching, because this is for tiramisu and they're going to end up all smushed in together anyways. I just went ahead and piped them in lines side by side so that they were completely touching. But again, if you're just making cookies, then go ahead and leave them separate. I did a few there just for fun. So now you're going to go ahead and put your ladyfingers into the oven at 390 degrees Fahrenheit for about 15 minutes. When you take them out, they should be nice and golden brown, and you can go ahead and let these cool, and then I like to wrap them up, and you will leave them just at room temperature overnight. One of the reasons that I sometimes like to do this the day before or the night before is because if they dry out just a little bit, then they will better soak up our coffee that we are going to soak them in tomorrow. Now the last thing that we are going to make the night before is the custard part of our filling. Now, I don't really do this the traditional way that you would make the custard for the tiramisu. I sort of do it the way you would make a creme anglaise or a pastry cream. So I heat the milk up on medium-high heat until it comes to a simmer, and at the same time I whisk together my egg yolks and my sugar. Then I'll pour my cream over my egg yolks while whisking, and then I'll pour everything back on the heat, and then I'll whisk it to bring it up to temperature. And again, this isn't really the traditional way to do it, but I think it's a little bit easier, a little bit faster, and I just like the way that it sets up. Now, once this is nice and thick, you can take it off the heat, put it into a bowl in an ice bath, and then you're just going to leave that in the fridge overnight. And I like to do this one the night before because then it doesn't feel like I'm waiting as long for it to cool down. Okay, so the next day when you come back, almost everything will be done, and you just have to do a little bit of assembly, so another reason to do a bunch of stuff the night before. So the first thing we are going to do is finish putting together our filling. So we're going to start with some cream, some heavy cream, and you're just going to go ahead and whip this up to stiff peaks. Then you're going to go back to your mascarpone that has been in the fridge overnight. Now at this point you should be able to take it out. If there's any liquid that is drained out of it, you can discard that. And what we're going to do is just whip up our mascarpone to get it nice and light and fluffy, so it's not too stiff when we're trying to mix it into the rest of our custard. So go ahead and give this a beat until it is nice and light. Then we're going to fold in our custard mixture to our mascarpone, and then we're going to fold all of that into our whipped cream. Now, I just did this with a spatula at first, but later on I found out that it had thinned a little bit too much, so I had to whip it back up just with some beaters until it held a little bit. So if you want to just whip it from this point, then go ahead. So I got it all mixed together, and then I put it in the fridge until I was ready to use it. Now this is the really fun part. You get to decide how you want to present your tiramisu. Now if you want it to look really pretty, you can use something with clear sides like a trifle dish so that you can see all the layers, or you can even use something like a springform pan so that you can completely take the sides off when you present it. I have this nice food grade acetate, so I decided to make little individual tiramisus. So I just had to take the acetate and form it into nice little sleeves that I could put my tiramisus in. So I just used a 3-inch cutter, and I taped a strip around to form a nice little ring. Now the last thing we have to do for assembly is cut our ladyfingers into the size that we like. Now again, I was just using these nice little 3-inch rings, so I used a 3-inch cutter and cut out all my pieces. So your tiramisu is going to have 3 layers of ladyfingers, so you're going to want to get 3 layers that are cut to the size of whatever you are putting it in. Now these layers don't all have to be perfect. I like to make my middle layer sort of a jigsaw puzzle where all the pieces are just leftovers that I've mismatched together to form a somewhat even layer. So just use the bottom of your pan or the ring of your trifle dish or whatever you have to figure out about what size your ladyfingers need to be cut into, and then go ahead and cut them out. Now we are all ready, so all the things we're going to need is our dish. You're going to need your custard from earlier, your cutout cookies, as well as some cocoa powder for dusting, and you're going to need some cold coffee with a generous pour of whatever alcohol you like. I used rum. It's really great if you use a coffee liqueur, but you can also leave the alcohol out altogether if you like. Okay, now for assembly. You're gonna go ahead and put your cookie on the bottom, and then you're going to coat that with a nice soak of our coffee mixture. You can spoon it in or drizzle it on top with a pastry brush like I did. And next you're going to put on a layer of your custard. So this tiramisu is going to have 3 layers of everything, so use about 1/3 of your custard in this layer. And then you're going to put on top of that a nice sprinkle of cocoa powder. And then for your middle layer, again, this will probably be your ugly layer of ladyfingers. So go ahead and fit all your bits and pieces on. And then you're going to go back again with coffee, custard, and cocoa. And then your last layer of ladyfinger, and then your coffee. And at this point you want your custard to look pretty, and the other layers you could easily sort of smush it down with the cookie, but this time I went ahead and layered it out just with a little spoon, and then cocoa powder again on the top. And at this point you can go ahead and put your tiramisu or tiramisus in the fridge for about an hour, just for it all to set up nicely before you serve. Now, after your tiramisus have been in the fridge for about an hour, you can go ahead and serve them up. If you're using something like a trifle dish, then you're already done. If you're using a springform pan or some acetate like I am, then go ahead and just peel away the sides and serve them up. And these are so cute. Again, they're one of my favorite desserts to make. I'm not even a fan of tiramisu, but they're just so cute. So go ahead, enjoy, and thank you for watching, and I will see you again